All right, today we're going to be taking a look at EndeavourOS. So here we are. I just unlocked my screen, and this is a KDE Plasma desktop. We're using Wayland, and I already have some fast fetch output here. Looks like fast fetch actually came pre-installed on the system. Now, EndeavourOS is an Arch-based distro, and it could be referred to as Arch with training wheels. It's not just for beginners, though. It's probably pretty good for anyone, but you have to make that decision for yourself. So it is a minimal, fast, and it's close to pure Arch. It's very close to vanilla pure Arch, but with a smoother setup experience. So it also uses Arch repositories directly. And I think they have their own repository. They do have their own repository configured in there too for some of their specific tools. But almost all the packages are being pulled from the Arch repositories. So this is very close to the Arch default. So it gives you more to start than a vanilla Arch, but not a ton of stuff like Garuda Linux, and it's not lagging behind like Manjaro Linux, right? So it provides a nice installer, and it makes it easy to get started with a desktop environment and basic tools by default. We're going to take a quick look at some of those in a little bit, but not right away. Now, Arch does have an installer these days, but it isn't as pretty or as easy as the EndeavourOS installer. So this is a great way for beginners to get into Arch Linux. Now, it doesn't make you a beginner if you use EndeavourOS, and it's an okay option for everyone, even advanced users, if you just want an easy, convenient installer and all the extra tools and stuff, and maybe the wallpaper. Although that's kind of a superficial thing. Now, in my case, I went with KDE Plasma. So you see this nice, pretty looking KDE Plasma desktop here. One thing I should mention, this was broken by default. It's because of the combination of Wayland, KDE Plasma, and the open source community NVIDIA drivers. So if you had chosen something else, probably wouldn't run into that issue. And basically, if I had chosen, when I logged in, if I chose X Windows instead of Wayland, it wouldn't have been an issue as well. So essentially, I went with KDE to start, and I logged in with Wayland. It basically, the screen flickered a few times, all my GUI elements went away, and it crashed and it froze. So I had to switch to a different TTY. Basically, go like Alt Control F2 like this. You can switch to another virtual where am I? All right, like this. Yeah, Alt Control F3, for example, will bring you to a text-based login. Not what we want. Let's switch back to our desktop. So back to our Wayland session here. So basically, I had to do that and basically kill SDDM, which is the display manager being used by KDE Plasma. So anyways, basically restart that and then log in again using X Windows. And then I updated my drivers to the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, and problem solved. I also tried out GNOME with X Windows and Wayland. GNOME was totally fine with either of them, with or without installing the proprietary NVIDIA drivers. Basically with KDE, if you log in with Wayland, it was breaking for me. X Windows, totally fine. That's only with the Nouveau community open source drivers. If you use the proprietary drivers or the community drivers from NVIDIA, it's going to solve that problem. So that's just one issue that I ran into. This might have been a deal breaker for someone who doesn't know how to fix it or doesn't know what's going on, but it's relatively easy fix. Now I want to show you my drivers here, and lsmod grep-i nvi. Here you can see the proprietary NVIDIA drivers there, and the open source drivers are not there right now, right? So initially I had the open source drivers, replaced it with these. And I have a separate video where I show you how to do that. But that was a pretty easy process. They actually have automatic automatic tools for this, but I did it by hand, just using Pac-Man. Anyways, check my other video if you want to see how to install the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, and if you want more information on the proprietary NVIDIA drivers, doing a video on that for EndeavourOS, which is and a separate one for Arch Linux, which is going to basically be the same process. Anyways, the Wi-Fi drivers are working by default. Let's see if we can see these. Okay, so if you look over here, here's the network manager. I'm using a wired connection by default, but it recognizes these wireless access points, showing that my wireless card is also working by default. So no driver issues there. Now, this is a rolling release with bleeding edge packages. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you could. So we have the Pac-Man package manager. I'm just going to quick demo how that works. So you can say Pac-Man. If you want to do a full update of your system, this is exactly the same as Arch Linux, just capital SYU to fully upgrade your system. If you want to install a package, you can install it like, you know what, let me zoom in on this so you can see it. Pac-Man dash capital S, and for example, GIMP to install the GIMP. And you're going to need sudo for root permissions. There you go. Let's install this package. And there you go. We have the GIMP installed. So you could go over here, GIMP, and GNU image manipulation program right there. So that easy to install a package. And it also has Flatpak. So Flatpak, you know, let's kill this. And yeah, we could actually install them both side by side. They're probably, so Arch is pretty up to date. Sometimes in distros where things lag behind, using a Flatpak can get you a newer version of a package, but I'm betting they're probably the same version. So there's not much point in installing the GIMP using Flatpak, but you can do Flatpak. I think it's Flatpak remotes. There you go. There you can see FlatHub is already installed, is already configured. So some distros, they'll give you some don't give you Flatpak, some give you Flatpak, but with no remotes configured. So you have to do that manually. This one has a sensible default. It just gives you FlatHub by default. So you can pull all your Flatpak packages from FlatHub. So it's all set up and ready to go. So you could install the GIMP just like this. And yeah, you actually need to specify the specific thing that matches that. So we actually, I believe, would want this guy right here. And there you go. That's how you would install the GIMP with Flatpak. Just kind of wanted to demo that. Let's open up a new window in case we want to do anything while this is running. Now, I also wanted to show you the disk layout. So LSBLK, you can see here. All right, so this is the disk we installed the system with, but this is our actual hard drive or SSD that we installed on. This is the USB installer disk right here. SDB is a USB installer. So this guy is our drive that we installed on. We have an EFI partition for EFI booting and a root partition. So let's take a look. df-h. You can see I installed not a whole lot. We're using 15 gigs by default. I actually did install GNOME, so I installed KDE with the installer, and then I went ahead and installed GNOME manually. So you know this isn't exactly what you're going to get by default on initial system installation. What else do I want to show you? So if you cat etc fs tab, pretty standard fs tab, fewer entries than some distros. So I believe it gave me an option to choose BTRFS or ButterFS or extension 4 during installation. I went with extension 4 because it's more generic and standard. So you can see our tempfs, EFI partition, no swap. It gives you an option to choose if you want swap or not, which is useful for hibernating, or if you don't have a lot of RAM and you want it for safety. But any case, I chose not to go with swap. You could choose that during install time or add it later if you want. So you get a root partition. The disks are identified by UUID, which is pretty standard with automatic disk partitioning. So this is what the installer partitioned my disks as. And yeah, extension 4, a pretty standard generic option, and obviously VFAT, it's required for the PHY partition, but it also has it'll do BTRFS for you if you want that during install. So let's clear this out and uname-a, check our kernel. It's 6.17.5, and let's do cat etsy issue on Arch based systems doesn't really give you much. It just shows you how the output should be formatting, but we can cat etsy os release, and you can see some info like the pretty name, EndeavourOS, ID like, so it's an Arch-like system. You the build ID and a bunch of other nice info. What else do we want to show you? So no swap space. There's the distro info. So let me show you what the installer looks like. Let's cut away to that right now. It's using the Calamares installer. So you can see the installer gives you a bunch of different options for desktops. You have KDE Plasma, GNOME, XFCE, Cinnamon, Mate, Budgie, LXQT, LXDE, i3 Window Manager, and you can probably install a ton of other things after the fact that aren't listed here after installing, but just during installation, you have all of these options prepackaged for you. Just select the one you prefer, and it sets up the display manager and everything else for you. It also comes with a ton of different software packages you can choose from. You can actually expand each of these and select individual packages, and a ton of stuff. These are just normal things that you're very likely to want to have. So it just gives you the option to install those out of the box so you can get up and running right away. You can choose system deboot, grub bootloader, or no bootloader if you want that. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, but also provides you with sensible choices that people are likely to want to have on a newly installed system. Also, right here, you can see standard options is very similar to what you get on other operating systems, installing using the Calamares installer. Install alongside, replace partition, erase the entire disk and replace it, or do manual partitioning. Pretty standard stuff here. All right, so now we should be cutting back from the installer, and let's go ahead and kill this window. And looks like we have the GIMP installed with Flatpak in the background. So it should show, yeah, it shows me two options for the GIMP here. Whoops. And let's see if we can run two at once. I know this is not a real useful example. All right, well, while that loads, one of them is a little slow, probably because it's initial install. So let's take a look at wallpapers, desktop and wallpaper. All right, only comes with a couple wallpaper options. It's a beautiful wallpaper, and I'm pretty sure you can get more of them if you want. We could switch it to something like this. I'm going to stick with this. So it looks like I may need to, it's not letting me launch two GIMPs at once to compare versions. I'm not going to go any further with that. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just the shortcut on this points to the exact same thing, or it calls it in the same way. Anyways, I'm not going to look further into that. That's just poking around. So one thing I wanted to show you there, it comes with some nice EOS tools or EndeavourOS tools. So I'm going to go through a few of those now. I personally would not use almost any of these. I would kind of learn how to do things. Some of them are kind of useful. Some of them are just sort of there. But let's take a look at the welcome tool. So this will run when you initially install the system. This is the welcome tool. It does things like update your mirrors, install NVIDIA drivers, which might have, that wouldn't have saved me from logging in with Wayland and KDE because it basically crashed right away and didn't give me a chance to use this if I had thought to, but so long as you know enough to log back out, bounce your system or whatever, and then log in with X Windows, so long as you know enough to try that, you could have this tool launched and install the updated NVIDIA drivers that way. So anyways, it lets you do that. It lets you change kernels, access a bunch of wikis and stuff like that, install additional desktop environments, and run system maintenance tools. So yeah, you can, I guess, update native and AUR packages, logs for troubleshooting, a lot of links to change your display manager, wallpaper, all sorts of nice stuff like that. All right, choose one of the EndeavourOS wallpapers. All right, don't need to poke around with that anymore. What else? Assistant, update native packages, mirrors, packdiff, KDE information. right, tips, add more apps, browse AUR packages, bunch of stuff that okay, this is just like a link to the wiki. All right, anyways, bunch of useful stuff if you need or want it, but it's kind of a nice way to get you started with the system. So another thing they have is EOS update, and you can click on this right here. And they also have an EOS update notifier that will supposedly notify you about updates every now and then. It has a GUI and a systemd timer, so when new updates are available, it's going to notify you. But it also has this tool, which is actually, I probably should have just launched. You can launch it from the menu here. I guess they give you a launcher, but it's really a CLI tool that you would launch using this command, the EOS update --AUR from the command line. So yeah, nothing to update, and it is basically just because I've updated recently, and it's just searching the AOR, nothing to do. Press any key to close it, right? So nice updater tool. I would probably just run them from the command line like normal, but it is nice that it notifies you of updates. So there's that. Now there's another tool called EOS Rank Mirrors. I have not really messed around with this, and I don't see. I mean, maybe if you want a faster mirror, but there's a command called Rank Mirrors. I'm not familiar with that either, but they have their own special version. EOS Rank Mirrors. I'm going to launch this. I'm not sure how it's going to run, and I'm not going to take time to really play around with it. But this should help you find mirrors that are faster potentially. So I'm not going to play around with it. Just be aware that it's there. So I'm just going to kind of try to, blast through the rest of these tools as fast as I can. Spend time on things that are actually interesting. So there's an EOS log tool. Let's try getting that from here. All right, EndeavourOS log tool. So this is actually kind of nice. It's a nice little. All right, I'm going to close this. This is a nice little tool that helps you gather information about different things, X sessions, install log, USB devices, disks, file system stuff. You can select what you want and save the info or share the logs to the internet. Nice little tool if you're just getting started and you want something to help you gather log information. And what else? So there's an EOS hooks thing. That's not an actual tool that you can install. I don't think there's any associated tool, but there are EOS hooks for Pac-Man that are configured, and they're supposed to, ensure system consistency for like regenerating your init RAM-FS, updating grub, stuff like that, keeping your system aligned with all the rolling changes. I'm not sure offhand how much more they add to the system compared to just standard hooks that come with Pac-Man and vanilla Arch Linux, but that's another thing that they list as being there. They have their own special EndeavourOS hooks for Pac-Man, right? So anyways, EOS package list. All right, CLI script. Let's try launching this from the CLI. EOS, I don't recall if this does anything quickly. All right, so I'm not sure if this is going to take more time than, you know what? You can do -- list, and I guess you can install. So you can list options, install packages on the list. I'm not sure how. All right, so this lists, I think, available package groups. I'm not sure how this is. All right, the EndeavourOS package list handler gets package information from the current installer files. It allows you to optionally install them. So I guess you could install these pre-configured software groups. So I guess this is like the stuff that it gives you an option to install during installation. I guess it allows you to use that to install these afterwards in case you don't want to do it manually with Pac-Man. Once you've got the system installed, I don't really see the point of using these, and I'm not going to go further with that tool, but it's a tool that's there, so I'm kind of showing you that. So anyways, so there's EOS package list. Now there's another package called EOS Bash Shared. That's nothing I can show you because it's just shared functionality for the EndeavourOS tools. There's another tool that's supposed to be on here, NVIDIA Inst. NVIDIA, this is not going to work. Inst. All right, yeah, so it looks like the NVIDIA Inst tool is not installed by default, and it's not even in the regular package repository. It's something you'd install with the AUR or Arch user repository, which they do give you Yay. Yay is installed on the system. That's a AUR helper, so it's there. But yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and install NVIDIA Inst in this video. But also supposedly there's an alternative kernel manager. I haven't seen that on this system. AKM. Anyways, all right, so there is one thing I want to show you is, let's see here, EndeavourOS Quick Start Installer. And this is actually pretty nice. So this is a nice GUI tool. And you know what? I may as well kill this. All right, so nice GUI tool lets you choose like browsers, a lot of different options, development tools. What else? Like Office, lots of Office tools, video players, all different useful stuff, right? So a lot of different things you could select here and install. Nice, commonly needed things that you're very likely to want to install, all available here if you want them. So that is a pretty nice thing to have. This is a pretty nice feature. Definitely worth looking at. Now, another thing they have is EOS apps. So we search for EOS and EOS apps info right here. All right, update the database now. All right, so it's a small, simple helper utility to, it'll show you, it'll list EndeavourOS specific packages and their short descriptions. So these are all packages that are EndeavourOS specific, and I guess some Linux bonus items. So it has all of these and short description. So like, all right, send log. All right, this is just like a link to an HTML file telling you about this. All right, look at that. So a lot of this is actually a nice thing if you're new to EndeavourOS. This is a nice little reference to get familiar with what's specific to EndeavourOS. I'm kind of curious what they have under NVIDIA. It's a Linux bonus. It just links you to NVIDIA and the Unix driver archive. This is actually a great site for information on NVIDIA cards and drivers. And let's see what else. Okay, so AKM is here. And looks like this is... No, it's not here. Anyways. It exists anyways. All right, so we're not going to look too far into that. This is about as far as I want to go with this. All right, so I think that's everything I wanted to cover for EndeavourOS. That's about it for today. Might want to hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below if you have your own experience you'd want to share. But yes, definitely stay tuned for my Arch video. I'm going to be doing some Arch videos coming up. I think those are way more interesting than this one. EndeavourOS is a nice, ultimately, EndeavourOS is a nice, easier, cleaner Arch version of Arch that gives you a lot more stuff to get you started if you don't know what you're doing. So it's nice, but for me, I would just go with regular vanilla Arch and set it up the way I want. But there you go. Hopefully you found this interesting. We'll see you guys on that next video.